Have you ever been in a situation where, you felt completely misunderstood? Or maybe struggled to get your point across in a meeting?
Oh, absolutely. Or just wishing you could connect more deeply with people.
Exactly. Whether it's at work, with your family, or even just trying to make new friends, it can feel like you're navigating this complex maze.
Totally.
Well, today, we're not just handing you a map. We're going much deeper. We're diving into the very nature of human connection to help you transform those interactions.
Welcome to the deep dive. And our mission today really is to unpack a genuinely powerful resource, Marc Reklau's insightful book, How to Become a People Magnet.
Hmm.
We're aiming to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the most practical tools specifically for you.
Think of it like your essential toolkit for mastering those interpersonal skills.
Yeah, packed with insights that might surprise you, give you those aha moments. We're talking about real, actionable strategies that can elevate literally every interaction,
Yeah,
making your relationships, well, more fulfilling and definitely more effective.
absolutely. Because here's a core idea, and it's actually backed by some pretty fascinating studies.
Mm.
Your success and your happiness in life, they hinge to a really significant extent on how well you get along with other people.
It's huge, isn't it? Les Giblin, who wrote a lot about dealing with people, he even suggested that mastering interpersonal skills gets you like 85% of the way to success in any profession.
85%.
Get almost entirely like 99% of the way to personal happiness. Just think about that.
Wow. It really flips that old saying, good guys finish last.
Right. It seems maybe the good guys do finish first. And there's even research showing strong social networks are linked to longer lives.
That's incredible. And we should be clear, this isn't about manipulation or just, being a people pleaser.
No, not at all. It's about fostering genuine connection.
Okay.
The kind that makes cooperation and appreciation, just general positivity, happen naturally. It's about building a life where doors you thought were locked just seem to swing open.
Okay, so where do we start? What's the foundation?
Precisely. And that brings us straight to our first major principle. It sort of lays the groundwork for everything else we'll talk about. It's a concept that can feel a bit challenging to accept at first glance.
Okay.
But once you really get it, it becomes incredibly liberating.
All right, let's dive right in then. The very first step, according to Reklau, to developing truly effective people skills is, well, it's understanding people for who they truly are.
Mm-hmm. Not who you wish they were or even who you think they should be.
It's about seeing reality head on. And the elephant in the room, as Reklau puts it,
Yeah.
it's this fundamental truth. People are, above all, interested in themselves.
Okay. That lands a bit hard, maybe.
It can sound that way,
Yeah.
but he stresses it's not a judgment. It's presented as a universal aspect of human nature, kind of common denominator for all of us.
Right. It might sound a little cynical, that idea that everyone's fundamentally self-interested, but let's unpack that, like you said earlier. Is it actually cynical, or is it a liberating truth once we accept it?
That's the key question, isn't it?
Because the book points out that basically every human interaction, whether we realize it or not, consciously or subconsciously, it's driven by this question, what's in it for me?
And here's the kicker.
Go on.
You ask this question in all your interactions, too. We all do.
That's true. So understanding why accepting this fundamental self-interest is crucial, it's not about negativity. It's actually about finding common ground. It's about appealing to the other person's motivation.
Ah, okay.
Right.
So once you embrace that, you can tailor your approach to what actually resonates with
Well,
them.
exactly. Instead of just imposing your own wants or assumptions onto the situation, it's the foundation.
Okay, so if people are primarily interested in themselves, that leads directly to another, well, simple but really profound secret Reklau shares.
Which is?
The most interesting and important subject to anyone in the entire world is themselves.
Huh. Okay, yeah, that rings true. Think about your own experiences, right?
Totally. Remember a time maybe at a networking event or some party, and you got stuck talking to someone who only talked about themselves?
Ugh. Yes. Painful. How did that feel? Were you drawn in or just scanning the room for an escape route?
Escape road, definitely.
Yeah.
Counting the seconds.
We've all been there. But then think about the flip side. Those rare people who showed genuine interest in you. You ask questions, they actually listen, they want to know how you are doing, what you think. How did that feel?
Completely different. Engaging. You feel valued.
The contrast is stark, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the practical application here, Reklau says, is to consciously shift your language.
How so?
He advises literally replacing words like I, my, and mine with you and your whenever possible.
Oh, interesting. So instead of like, I think this solution will help, you'd say?
Maybe something like, I think you'll find this solution really beneficial, or your team could really use this. It just reorients the whole conversation around them.
That feels subtle, but I can see how it would change the energy. It's counterintuitive for a lot of us maybe, but wow, that sounds powerful.
It really is. And the actionable strategy is simply this. Get people talking about themselves.
Because who doesn't love to talk about themselves?
Exactly. Ask open-ended questions about their family, their work, their hobbies, what they did last weekend. How's everything going, Sarah? How's the new project? What have you been up to since we last talked?
But the key is showing true, authentic interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not just going through the motions.
Absolutely crucial. Stop talking so much about yourself and start talking about them. Show you genuinely care.
Okay. And this ties right into another point, doesn't it? About a deep human craving.
Yes, the desire to be recognized, to feel important, noticed, to feel like you're someone. Reklau calls this one of the most powerful human motivators. It drives good actions and sometimes, unfortunately, bad ones too.
And the core principle here, again, is that your interest must be real.
Cannot stress that enough. This isn't about learning tricks to manipulate people. It's about becoming a genuine people magnet. You want people to walk away thinking, wow, she really made me feel special, like I was the most important person in the room right then.
So what does that look like in practice? What behaviors should we adopt?
It's about making everyone you meet feel special. Sincere compliments are part of it. But maybe even more important is active listening, really listening.
Okay, what does active listening involve here?
Not interrupting, for one. Leaving even just a short pause before you respond shows you're processing what they said. Nodding your head, showing you're following along. And the power of using someone's name. Use their name as often as feels natural. It's their unique tag, their connection to their identity. For many people, it's the sweetest sound.
That's a good reminder. And the mindset behind all this.
You have to genuinely believe they are important. That's the foundation. Noticing them, paying attention, it sends the message. You are important to me. If you don't listen, the message is the opposite. They feel unimportant. Recognition and appreciation, they're vital. They make us function better, period.
Which raises an interesting point. How does our internal belief, how we actually feel about someone's worth, how does that directly show up in our behavior? And how does that influence their response back to us?
That's a great question. When you genuinely feel someone is important, everything aligns your body language, how attentive you are, the words you choose. It all conveys that belief. And that naturally evokes a much more positive response from them. It's like you're radiating that belief outwards, creating this positive feedback loop of respect and connection.
Okay, building on that understanding of human nature, Reklau brings up another powerful principle, maybe a bit counterintuitive again. The art of agreement.
Yes. It seems simple, but think about it. Our brains seem wired to gravitate towards people who affirm our views. It creates an instant sense of rapport, of being on the same side.
People naturally like those who agree with them, and they tend to dislike those who disagree.
So the practical step is to consciously adopt a more agreeable attitude in conversations. Nodding, saying things like, yes, right, I totally agree with you, or I totally get where you're coming from.
He quotes something like, any fool can disagree.
Right. Any fool can disagree with people. Suggesting that agreeing, even sometimes when you think the other person might be off base, is actually a wise, intelligent, and productive choice for building that initial connection.
So you only disagree if you absolutely have to.
That's the idea, and he suggests that happens far less often than we might think.
This brings up a really powerful self-check, doesn't it? He calls it a magic question to ask yourself before jumping in to disagree.
Which is?
Do I want to be right, or do I want to be in peace?
Ooh, that's a good one. Because the crucial rule here is do not argue. Reklau really hammers this home.
Nobody truly wins an argument right. Both sides end up losing something.
Exactly. You don't win friends by arguing. And honestly, who enjoys being around someone who argues all the time? So is the goal really about being right? Or is there a higher aim, like maintaining peace and connection?
That really reframes things.
And if someone tries to provoke an argument, because let's face it, some people seem to feed on conflict, the advice is pretty clear.
Ignore them. Change the subject.
Yep. Ignore them, change the subject, or just politely walk away. You don't need that negative energy.
And related to this, he also mentions that admitting your own mistakes is actually a sign of strength.
It really is. It often garners admiration because, let's be honest, average people often lie, deny, or make excuses when they mess up. So owning it, stands out. It shows genuine strength.
Okay, shifting gears slightly.
Hmm.
What about those first encounters? Meeting someone new. Those initial moments are incredibly impactful, aren't they?
Hugely impactful. Experts suggest people subconsciously decide if they like us within seconds. Literally seconds. And once that decision is made,
It's really hard to change.
very hard. You truly never get a second chance to make a first impression.
So what's a key tool for making that first impression count? Something universal.
The power of a simple smile, it's incredibly effective. Smiling is contagious. Most people will naturally smile back and feel warmer towards you.
Reklau mentions that idea of reciprocity, right? What you put out comes back.
Exactly. Be nice, and people tend to be nice back. But here's the real challenge he throws down.
Uh-oh.
If someone is rude to you, the advice is to become even nicer.
Wow, okay. That takes effort.
It does make it a personal challenge. He claims, and it's a bold claim, that nobody can long resist sincere politeness, a good heart, and a genuine smile.
And smiling isn't just about influencing others, it benefits us too, right?
Absolutely. The science is fascinating. Regularly smiling or laughing can improve your mental state, boost creativity, actually slow your heart rate during stress, and lower overall stress levels.
I read one study even linked it to living longer.
It's true. Plus, smiling people are generally seen as more confident, more trustworthy. People just feel better around them.
So smiling helps, but making a good impression also comes back to something deeper. Self-respect.
Yes, Reklau sees this as foundational. You essentially teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself.
So if you want others to value and admire you,
You have to value and admire yourself first. It's about having healthy self-esteem, not arrogance, that's different, but a genuine pride in who you are and what you do.
knowing your strengths, but also knowing you're not inherently better than anyone else.
And just as importantly, knowing no one is inherently better than you. Your behavior, how you carry yourself, directly influences how others see you. Handle yourself with pride, with confidence, and always, always be sincere.
And what should we definitely avoid when trying to make a good impression?
Being overly anxious is one. It can make others doubt you, and a big one. Never try to build yourself up by putting other people down.
That always backfires, doesn't it? Makes you look bad.
It really damages your reputation. The golden rule Reklau mentions is pretty simple. If you can't say nice things, just say nothing. Don't put people down. It's a great principle for everyday life. Okay, let's shift now into the mechanics, the art of truly effective communication. And this really starts with what Reklau calls one of the most critical skills for becoming a people magnet,
Which is?
actively listening. Good listeners, he says, are incredibly rare. And because they're rare, they gain this undeniable advantage even over really good talkers.
Why is that? Why is listening so powerful?
Well, as Reklau puts it, you allow people to hear their absolute favorite speaker in the whole world.
Themselves.
Exactly. And while talking too much can sometimes give you away or reveal weaknesses, listening actually makes you seem more intelligent. You're giving importance to what the other person has to say instead of just showing off your own knowledge.
Okay, so how do we become exceptional listeners? What does that look like?
It starts with giving your full, undivided attention. Maintaining eye contact, not staring, but connecting. Listening with your eyes, your ears, your whole body, really.
Leaning in slightly, maybe?
Yes, leaning towards the speaker shows engagement. Nodding, smiling appropriately, asking those open-ended follow-up questions like, oh, really? And then what happened? It shows you're tracking and genuinely interested.
And this is maybe the hardest part, quieting that little voice inside your head.
That's the big one. The voice that's busy rehearsing your response or formulating advice or judging what they're saying. You have to consciously quiet that and just listen. Listen purely to understand, not simply to formulate your answer.
Right. And resist the urge to interrupt. Or just jump in the second they pause for breath.
Absolutely. Don't change the subject either. If anything, ask for more information on their topic. And if you feel compelled to give advice,
Ask permission first.
always ask first. Would you be open to a suggestion? Or something similar. Often, just by listening, you allow the other person to talk through their issue and find their own solution.
And keep using you and your instead of me, mine.
That reinforces the focus on them, the overall impact. Reklau claims becoming a truly active listener fundamentally transforms your conversations, your relationships. People are just naturally drawn to someone who makes them feel heard like that.
Okay, so mastering listening seems like a prerequisite for the next step. Becoming an influencer.
It definitely helps. Influencing, in this context, simply means getting people to do what you want them to do. And Reklau points out the biggest mistake we often make here.
Assuming what motivates us also motivates them.
Precisely. Everyone has different values, different likes, different core motivators. We can't just project our own onto others.
So the key then is to figure out what they actually want, what they're looking for.
Exactly. You have to uncover their desires, their motivations. Once you have a good sense of that, you can start speaking their language.
Ah, so you frame your request in terms of their benefit.
You got it. You show them how they can get what they want by doing what you want them to do, whether that's, buying your product, taking the job you're offering, agreeing to your proposal, whatever it is.
And Reklau adds an ethical note here, right? This power can be used for good or ill.
A very important point. Choose wisely how you use this understanding, and the primary way to get this valuable information about their desires.
Listen, watch, ask questions.
Listen intently, observe carefully, and ask lots of good, open-ended questions. That's how you uncover what truly drives them.
Okay, another interesting technique Reklau mentions for persuasion is using social proof.
Yes, this is about letting others speak for you, essentially. Quoting someone else is often far more convincing than making the claim yourself. It leverages the power of testimonials, third-party opinions.
Even if that third party isn't actually in the room.
It doesn't matter. If you're selling something, quote, a happy customer, if a supplier asks about your payment track record, mention how satisfied your other suppliers are with your promptness.
In a job interview, maybe mention positive feedback from previous managers or colleagues.
Perfect example. It's kind of a psychological quirk, isn't it? If you say, I'm great, people are often skeptical.
Yeah, a bit boastful maybe.
But if someone else says you're great, people tend to accept it much more readily. It's like a shortcut to credibility.
Okay, and then there's this clever technique for sort of guiding conversations towards agreement, building a yes mindset.
Right. The strategy is to get the other person into an affirmative frame of mind right from the start. You do this by asking 2 or more yes questions.
Questions that can basically only be answered with yes.
Exactly. Like, you want to be happy, don't you? Or you're interested in improving your results. Right. Simple things. He even suggests subtly nodding your head while asking them to emphasize the yes.
Huh. Okay. It builds momentum.
It does. And another smart tactic related to this, don't offer a choice between yes and no if you can avoid it.
Offer a choice between 2 yeses.
Precisely. Instead of, do you want to meet? Try. Would Tuesday or Wednesday work better for you to meet? Instead of, do you want this in red? Try. Would you prefer the red one or the black one?
Ah, I see. You're framing the choice within the assumption of agreement.
Exactly. You're increasing the probability of a positive response by structuring the choice that way. Avoid those open questions that give an easy pathway to no. Hashtag cultivating integrity in positive relationships.
All right, let's shift focus now to some foundational habits, the bedrock for building really strong, positive relationships. Reklau starts this section with a pretty blunt reminder.
Which one's that?
Talk less, do more.
Ah, yes. The core message being, you are what you do, not what you say you'll do.
It makes sense. People who only talk about doing great things but never actually follow through. They lose credibility fast, don't they?
Totally. After a while, nobody takes them seriously. And maybe even worse, it actually damages their own self-esteem.
How so?
Because every time we say we'll do something and then don't, we're sending this little subconscious message to ourselves. My word doesn't really count, or I'm not reliable. It chips away at self-worth.
So actions really do speak louder than words. Don't just tell your friends you'll help them move.
Show up and help them move. Don't just brag about being generous.
Actually donate or volunteer.
Exactly. Don't tell your boss constantly what a great worker you are. Let your performance, your results speak for themselves. The call to action is pretty direct. Stop talking about it and start doing it now.
Okay, that ties nicely into the next point. Respecting other people's opinions.
This is a big one. Let's be real. You're not always going to be right. And even when you are right, Reklau argues it's often far more beneficial not to go out of your way to prove the other person wrong.
That impulse to correct someone, especially when you see a clear mistake, it can be really strong.
It really can. But think about the impact. Proving someone wrong, especially if you do it in a way that makes them feel stupid or hurts their pride, well, it makes it almost impossible for them to actually change their opinion, even if you are right.
Saying something like, I'm going to prove this to you, is basically like saying, I'm smarter than you.
Which immediately puts them on the defensive. Reklau suggests a much better approach. Start by admitting that you could be wrong.
Like, I might be wrong about this, but here's how I see it. Let's look at it together.
Exactly. It completely disarms the opposition. It invites them to be just as honest and open-minded. You'll get much further with that kind of diplomatic, courteous approach than by just bluntly telling someone they're flat out wrong.
And there's that interesting paradox again.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed, when you genuinely admit you were wrong, instead of getting defensive, the other person often becomes kind of empathetic. They might even try to comfort you a bit.
It's so true. It's completely counterintuitive, but it happens. And the flip side, if you're constantly pointing out everyone else's mistakes, you're going to find yourself pretty lonely pretty quickly.
Which really underscores the power of authenticity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If you want to be genuinely successful with people, Reklau insists you have to be real. Let people feel that what you see is what you get.
But that can feel scary, right? We worry people won't like the realness.
That's what Reklau calls a mind movie. It's this drama we create in our heads. He says you just need to know your strengths, be aware of your weaknesses, be willing to be vulnerable sometimes, and take responsibility when you mess up. That's really it.
And the result is deeper connections, less fear of judgment.
Exactly. People are drawn to realness. He argues the worst thing you can do is constantly say things or agree with people just to please them. That often signals low self-esteem.
So speak your truth, but do it tactfully.
Precisely. And the paradox holds. The more you are authentically yourself, the more the right people will be genuinely attracted to you.
Okay, another simple but often overlooked habit for strengthening bonds.
Let me guess. Gratitude.
You got it.
Yeah.
Say thank you. Reklau is a massive advocate for this. He calls gratitude one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and it benefits both the person receiving it and the person giving it.
And science completely backs this up now. Practicing gratitude is linked to being happier, more optimistic, feeling more socially connected, sleeping better, having more energy. The list goes on. It makes you more forgiving, less depressed. It's a huge win-win.
So how do we do it effectively? For sincerity.
You have to genuinely mean it. Say thank you, clearly. Make eye contact if possible and use their name. Thank you, David. Thank you, Maria. It makes it personal.
And don't just thank for the big, obvious things.
Right. Practice thanking people for the small, everyday things, too. The person holding the door, the colleague who covered for you for 5 minutes. It really does transform relationship.
Okay, another crucial element of integrity. Admitting your mistakes.
Yes. Reklau stresses there's nothing inherently wrong with making mistakes. We're human. Stop beating yourself up over them. But think about someone you know who never admits they're wrong, who always has an excuse or blames someone else.
Doesn't exactly build trust, does it?
Not at all. So, if you want to build trust and influence, you have to find the courage, the strength to admit your own errors. It's a clear sign of a strong person, and others will actually admire you for it. Average people, he says, often lie or deny.
Of course, the key is to admit it and then learn from it. Don't keep making the same mistakes.
That's the crucial follow-up. Learn and adapt.
Okay, and as a direct contrast to building trust, there's the toxic habit of gossiping.
Yes, stop gossiping. Reklau is very clear. This inevitably damages your trustworthiness and your relationships.
What's the main danger, he points out?
The person who is gossiping to you right now is very likely going to gossip about you the second you turn your back.
Ouch.
Sure.
True. And the people listening to you gossip.
They're inevitably wondering, what does Hesha say about me when I'm not around? It just erodes your reputation.
So what's the action plan if someone starts gossiping near you?
Change the subject immediately. Or just politely excuse yourself and walk away. Don't engage. Be a person of integrity. Aim for sincere, meaningful conversations instead.
And right alongside gossip, another toxic habit to ditch, judging others.
Stop judging. People don't want to be judged, Reklau reminds us. They want to be liked, feel important, be appreciated. The real challenge here is empathy. Can you genuinely try to put yourself in their shoes?
Remembering that, quote, everybody we meet is fighting their own unique battle.
Exactly. Be kind. Show empathy. And he makes another interesting point. Often, the things that really bother us about other people
Reflect something we don't like about ourselves.
It's often true. Observe your judgments. If someone's lateness drives you crazy, ask yourself honestly, am I really always perfectly on time? Reklau advises basically, get your own house in order before you start judging others.
The wisdom being, walk a mile in their shoes, maybe even 10, before you judge.
The powerful reminder.
And rounding out this section on foundational integrity, keep your word.
So important. A good reputation can take years to build, but you can destroy it in seconds by not keeping your word. Trust is the absolute bedrock of all relationships, personal and professional.
And it's not just about others trusting you, right? It affects self-trust too.
Absolutely. When you consistently fail to follow through on your commitments, even small ones, you're subtly telling your subconscious, my word isn't worth much. It directly harms your self-esteem over time.
So how do we actively keep our word?
Never make promises you're not sure you can keep. Always aim to underdeliver and overperform slightly. Be where you say you'll be when you say you'll be there. Mean what you say, no wishy-washy talk. Do what you say you're going to do. Never lie if you can't or won't do something. Be upfront immediately. And don't play with people's emotions or say things just to impress them. Be authentic.
And the payoff?
People feel great around you because they know you're reliable. You exceed expectations. And you feel better, less stressed, more relaxed, because you're living in integrity. It's a powerful way to live.
Okay, let's move into how we can actively lead and inspire through our actions. Reklau starts with a core principle. Praise and acknowledge people honestly and sincerely.
Yes, he comes back to this often. He sees praise and acknowledgement as fundamental human needs. We all have this deep-seated need to feel important, to feel appreciated.
And there's that cycle again. When you give genuine praise and acknowledgement,
You tend to get it back. It creates a positive upward spiral. So make it a habit, an honest, sincere daily habit, to look for opportunities to praise and acknowledge others.
this flows naturally into the next idea,
Yeah.
showing everyone kindness and respect.
Right. Thinking about it this way, every single person you meet has a story as compelling, as complicated, as intricate as your own. Just as you are extraordinary in your own way, so are they. Treat them accordingly.
So don't just dismiss people immediately if they seem different or you don't initially connect.
Exactly. Try to find something you can learn from everyone. And Reklau adds an important point. Even if people occasionally respond negatively, or maybe even try to take advantage of your kindness, don't let it change you.
That's tough.
It can be. But he views it as a small price to pay for all the connections you'll make with the other great, genuine people who will appreciate your kindness. And he even argues that rude people often need kindness the most.
Remembering that what goes around comes around idea. He shares that great story from his time as a waiter at Disney World.
Yeah. The nicer trick. If a guest was rude, he challenged himself to become even nicer, more polite, more attentive. And he found that in like 99% of cases, it completely disarmed them and won their sympathy.
Because rudeness kind of feeds on anger or defensiveness.
Exactly. Kindness just neutralizes it. Smiling at someone who's being rude, genuinely smiling, shows your strength, not weakness. It's a masterclass in transforming potential conflict into connection.
Okay, building on that theme of influence, but moving away from direct confrontation. Reklau advises leaders, but also friends and family, to don't give direct orders. Be more subtle.
Yes. Human nature, right. Most people instinctively resist being told exactly what to do. It can feel like a challenge to their autonomy, their sense of control.
So instead of just saying, do this, what's the more subtle approach?
Use questions. Frame requests as questions. Have you considered trying this approach? Do you think that strategy would work here? What would you think about doing it this way?
Ah, okay. It invites their input, their participation.
Exactly. It allows people space to learn from their own thinking, maybe even their own mistakes. It maintains their feeling of importance and encourages cooperation instead of resentment. And it often stimulates more creativity, too.
So effective leaders don't just bark orders.
Not usually. They tend to explain the challenge or the goal and then invite their team or their family members or friends to come up with potential solutions themselves. He calls this using power questions. It shifts the ownership and the responsibility in a really positive way.
This leads to a really fascinating, almost transformative idea Reklau explores. Believe in people's potential.
This one is powerful. Your genuine belief in another person's potential can actually help them achieve it. It's not just wishful thinking.
He shares that business example, right? Instead of yelling at an underperforming employee.
Right. The successful leader invites them for a real conversation, reminds them of their past successes and skills, expresses belief in them, and asks, okay, how can we solve this problem together? It changes the entire dynamic from confrontation to collaboration.
There's that famous quote from Goethe.
If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. It captures the idea perfectly.
And this is backed by that famous study, the Rosenthal study, often called the Pygmalion effect.
Yes, where teachers were told, completely at random, that certain students were academic superstars destined for great things, even though the teachers were told not to treat them differently.
Those specific students, regardless of their actual starting ability, consistently performed better by the end of the year.
It's incredible. What's truly fascinating here is the profound, almost, you could say, magical impact our belief in others can have on their actual performance. It's a powerful testament to how our perceptions can literally shape reality, not just for the individual, but for the entire relationship.
Which brings us naturally to the idea of leading by example. Reklau talks about the mirror theory.
Yeah, the idea that other people often act like a mirror, reflecting our own behavior back at us.
And he tells that fantastic story about Gandhi and the sugar.
Oh, classic. The mother brings her son, asks Gandhi to tell the boy to eat less sugar. Gandhi says, "Come back in a month." They come back. Gandhi looks at the boy and says simply, "Son, you should eat less sugar."
And the mother, understandably confused, asks why he couldn't have just said that a month ago.
And Gandhi's reply is the key. "Because a month ago, I was eating too much sugar myself."
Wow. It perfectly illustrates the point.
Yeah,
The most powerful way to influence change in others is through your own example.
exactly. Don't just tell your partner to exercise more. Go exercise yourself. Don't just criticize your employees for being late. Be punctual and prepared yourself. Be the best example you can be.
The mindset shift is huge. Stop focusing on, oh, others need to change, and start asking, what if I change first? Maybe then others will change too.
So what's the takeaway for us? It means the most potent form of influence isn't telling, it's showing. It's living the change you want to see in the world or just in your own relationships.
And a powerful way to enhance this, to amplify that positive reflection, is by consciously focusing on others' strengths.
Right. Reklau explains this through the lens of selective perception. What you focus on, you tend to see more of.
Like when you buy a new car and suddenly you see that same model everywhere.
Exactly. Your focus creates your reality, in a sense. So apply this to your relationships. If you consistently focus on your partner's strengths, you'll start noticing them more, appreciating them more. You'll see what made you fall in love in the first place.
If you focus on an employee's potential and past successes,
You'll see more of that potential realized. He suggests actively asking yourself, what are their unique strengths? What makes this person special, compelling?
and this isn't just about individual relationships, is it? It has broader implications.
Absolutely. Focusing on similarities rather than differences, on strengths rather than weaknesses, is crucial for fostering common ground, finding shared goals, and navigating conflicts or negotiations much more effectively. It's about consciously choosing what you amplify through your attention. #tag navigating conflict and self-care in relationships.
Okay, let's transition now into navigating those trickier interactions, the difficult conversations, and also touch on some crucial elements of self-care within relationships. Reklau kicks this section off with a pretty bold statement. Don't criticize.
Yeah, that one can be tough to swallow initially. He views criticism as basically useless and often dangerous.
The impulse to criticize, especially when we see something we think is wrong or inefficient, it can be really strong. But Reklau argues the actual benefit is almost zero.
Pretty much. Criticism immediately triggers defensiveness. It hurts pride, it creates resentment. He argues strongly that people learn, perform, and grow better when they feel genuinely praised and acknowledged, not when they're punished, pressured, or picked apart.
He uses the contrast between telling someone before a presentation, don't screw it up like last time, versus
something encouraging like, go knock it out of the park, you've got this. The energy is completely different.
so if criticism is so ineffective, what should you do instead when you feel that urge?
Take a few deep breaths. Maybe even physically leave the room for a moment to cool down. If you feel compelled to write an angry email, draft it, but then wait, sleep on it. Reread it in the morning before hitting send. Chances are you'll soften it or delete it entirely.
And the underlying truth he keeps coming back to.
You cannot fundamentally change other people unless they want to change. Focus on being the change you want to see. Be the example.
Okay, but what if you genuinely feel you have to address an issue, a real problem that needs correction?
Right. If criticism is absolutely unavoidable, Reklau offers a constructive approach. The feedback sandwich.
Ah, I've heard of this. But he still prefers not criticizing at all, if possible.
Definitely. But if you must, frame it as feedback, not criticism. And the intention must be to help the other person grow, not to put them in their place or assert your superiority. That just breeds resentment.
So how does the sandwich work again?
Simple structure. Layer 1. Start with genuine praise. Begin with something pleasant, a sincere compliment about something they do well or their positive attributes.
Okay, the top slice of bread.
Exactly. Layer 2. Deliver the feedback, the meat of the sandwich. State the specific area for improvement clearly and calmly.
Leave the bottom slice.
Layer 3. End with praise. Finish on a friendly, encouraging note. Reiterate their strengths. express confidence in them, or mention something else they do well.
He also gives some key rules for delivering this feedback, right?
Yes, important ones, like ask for permission first. Would you be open to some feedback on that presentation? Deliver it privately, never in front of others. Do it relatively soon after the event, not weeks later. Don't demand cooperation, nicely ask for it. And crucially, watch your body language and tone. Positive nonverbals can make constructive feedback land much better. Negative body language can undermine even positive words.
And there was that tiny but critical linguistic tip: avoid the word but.
Yes, this is huge. The word but effectively cancels out any praise that came before it. If you say you handled that customer really well, but you need to work on your closing technique, all they hear is the criticism.
So use and instead.
Exactly. You handled that customer really well, and I think we can work together to make your closing technique even stronger. It connects the positive and the area for growth rather than negating the positive. It makes a world of difference in how the message is received.
Okay, that makes sense. How about handling complaints then, when someone is coming to you with criticism?
Reklau's advice here is gold. Let the other person do most of the talking. Aim for like an 80.20, maybe even 90.10 Lear ratio where they are doing 90% of the talking. Complaints, he argues, are actually incredibly valuable sources of information if you handle them right.
So the first step is don't get defensive.
Absolutely resist that urge. Instead, shift into active listening mode. Ask lots of clarifying questions. Listen patiently, deeply. Encourage them to let it all out. Don't interrupt. Repeat their main points back to them. So, if I understand correctly, you felt frustrated because X happened. To ensure you've truly understood.
Show genuine empathy. Try to see it from their perspective.
Yes. Convey that you understand why they feel that way, and that you genuinely want to find a solution that works for them. If a mistake was made on your part, admit it freely and apologize sincerely. Maintain positive body language, eye contact, nodding. Take notes if appropriate.
And when it is your turn to speak,
Keep it clear, simple, and focused on solutions. Use the complaint as a learning opportunity. Where did things go wrong? What could be done differently next time? Focus on moving forward, not dwelling on the problem or assigning blame.
this relates closely to another point: letting the other person save face.
Immensely important, Reklau stresses, yet often overlooked. Never ignore the other person's feelings, never criticize them publicly, never make threats or ultimatums that corner them. These actions directly attack their pride, their identity, and cause lasting damage.
Those kinds of inconsiderate actions can destroy relationships, right? He mentions that saying.
People don't change jobs, they change bosses. It often boils down to feeling disrespected or undermined.
So when someone does make a mistake, instead of shaming them,
Be encouraging. Remind them that mistakes are normal, part of learning. Express your confidence in their ability to fix it or do better next time. This approach can actually boost their motivation and loyalty, whereas shaming them might just lead to them shutting down or leaving.
and what about that powerful technique if criticism is absolutely unavoidable?
Ah, yes. Talk about your own mistakes first. Before you even mention their error, put yourself in their shoes. Think back. Did you make similar or maybe even worse mistakes when you were their age or new to that task?
Sharing your own vulnerability first makes them more receptive.
Much more. People are far more open to hearing about their faults if the person pointing them out readily admits their own imperfections.
So the technique is humble yourself, find something sincere to praise about them, then gently bring up the area for improvement.
It can turn a potentially negative interaction into a moment of connection, even creating a loyal fan. Admitting your own past or even present mistakes makes you seem authentic, relatable, trustworthy. And hey, you might even help them learn from your experience and avoid repeating your mistakes.
Okay, this all seems to circle back to a core element: empathy.
Absolutely. Put yourself in other people's shoes. Reklau calls empathy one of the absolute keys to success in all relationships. It's always easy to judge. It's much harder, but far more rewarding to genuinely try to understand.
Making the effort to grasp why people do what they do. How would I feel? How might I react if I were in their exact situation with their background, their pressures?
It's crucial. When you start treating other people's feelings, their ideas, their perspectives as being just as important and valid as your own, the reactions you get become incredibly positive.
It's like a conflict prevention strategy too, right? Seeing things from their viewpoint can stop arguments before they even begin.
Totally. He suggests that before you ask anyone to do anything significant, pause and ask yourself, why would my client or my employee or my spouse or my child want to do this? What's their motivation?
And if you do find yourself in a tense situation or dealing with someone who's upset, Reklau offers a really powerful phrase.
The sympathy phrase. I don't blame you one bit for feeling that way. If I were in your shoes, I would surely feel just as you do.
Just acknowledging their feelings like that, it can completely disarm the situation.
It's incredibly effective. It often stops arguments dead in their tracks, melts away ill feeling, and creates goodwill almost instantly. Because remember, everyone's fighting some kind of battle. If people are being rude or angry, try not to judge. Maybe pity them instead. They probably just want some sympathy, some understanding, some care.
So if someone insults you or attacks you,
Consider apologizing for whatever part you might have played and genuinely sympathize with their viewpoint, even if you don't agree with it. Kindness and sympathy are remarkably good at neutralizing rudeness and anger. Threats get you nowhere. Asking kindly opens doors.
this leads perfectly into another common relationship killer: assumptions.
Oh, yeah. Don't make assumptions.
Reklau identifies this as a major source of trouble, misunderstandings, and pain in friendships, marriages, work relationships, everywhere. It's such a common trap, isn't it? We assume we know what someone else is thinking or feeling or why they did something. We take that assumption as fact.
And then we react based on that assumption, often creating huge drama out of thin air. And the crazy part is, most of the time, our assumptions are completely false.
Just those mind movies playing out in our heads again.
Exactly. So what's the simple yet courageous solution?
Easy.
Just ask. Ask for clarification. Hey, when you said X, what did you mean by that? Or, I noticed Y happened. Can you help me understand what was going on? It takes guts sometimes, but asking prevents countless problems. Confirm you actually understand before you react.
We assume others see life like we do, think like we do, feel like we do. We even make limiting assumptions about ourselves.
It's true. That simple act of asking questions leads to so much clarity. It frees up all the energy we waste on those negative mind movies. It dramatically improves communication and relationships, sometimes strengthening them, sometimes revealing that maybe it's time to let a particular relationship go.
You know, it makes you wonder, is the courage to just ask a direct, clarifying question maybe the single most undervalued skill in communication, given how much noise and misunderstanding it can cut through?
That's a profound thought. It really might be.
Okay, another piece of advice for protecting ourselves in interactions. Don't take anything personally.
This one is hard, really hard. But Reklau argues it's crucial for inner peace. The reality is, most things people say or do, especially negative things directed at you, often have very little to do with you.
It's more about their stuff, their projections, their issues, their bad day.
Exactly. It's their mind movie playing out. If you take everything personally, you'll constantly suffer. You'll be easily offended, always feeling defensive, always on edge.
The key is knowing who you are internally, not needing external validation.
That's the core. Only you truly need to know your own worth. Don't constantly seek it from others. And again, choose peace over being right. Let it go.
He makes a sharp point, too. What hurts you isn't actually what the other person says.
It's what you say to yourself about it afterward. It's your internal reaction. If you genuinely know deep down that you're not an idiot, then someone calling you an idiot, well, it might be annoying, but it doesn't have the power to truly wound you.
So when you do feel hurt by something someone says, it's a cue to look inward.
Yes. Ask yourself, why is this affecting me so much? Is there a part of me deep inside that actually believes this criticism might be true? That self-reflection is key. Remember Dr. Wayne Dyer's great quote,
How people treat you is their karma.
and how you react to it is yours. Powerful.
Okay, and finally, a critical aspect of self-care and maintaining healthy relationships. Curating your environment.
Yes. Stop spending time with the wrong people. Reklau is clear. This book isn't about being a people pleaser or trying to get along with absolutely everyone. That's impossible and unhealthy.
It's about honest, genuine relationships, which means setting boundaries is okay and necessary.
Absolutely necessary. You don't have to let people walk all over you just to be nice. You simply can't get along with everyone.
And who you choose to spend your time with has a massive impact.
Profound. It deeply affects your self-esteem, your level of success, your overall happiness. So make conscious choices. Avoid toxic people, the complainers, the blamers, the energy vampires.
And actively seek out positive people.
Yes. Choose people who support you, who motivate you, who challenge you constructively, who help you take positive action. And be willing to let go of relationships that consistently hurt you or drain you. It's okay.
There's that Jim Rohn quote.
You are the average of the 5 persons you spend the most time with. And there's actually a surprising amount of research that backs up this idea of social contagion, attitudes, habits, even happiness levels spreading through social networks.
So choose your average wisely.
Definitely. Toxic people will drain your energy, and over time, they can make you more negative and cynical without you even realizing it. Protect your energy. Curate your environment. Hashtag outro.
So we've really dug deep into Marc Reklau's How to Become a People Magnet today, trying to pull out those really impactful, practical, and maybe sometimes surprising nuggets of wisdom. Yeah, we covered a lot of ground.
But here's the thing, the essential takeaway, really, just absorbing this knowledge, just listening to us talk about it, well, that's not enough.
Right. The real transformation, the genuine shift in your relationships and maybe even yourself, it comes from actually applying these principles consistently in your daily life.
You've basically got a whole new toolbox now filled with strategies for connection.
Exactly. So the call to action is pretty clear and maybe less daunting than it sounds. Start small.
Don't try to implement all 60-plus principles tomorrow morning.
Please don't. Pick just 1 or 2 ideas that really resonated with you today, something that felt like, oh, I could try that, and just begin practicing it today.
Reklau talks about the compound interest effect of these things. Small, consistent changes in how you interact, day after day, they build up over time and create massive results. Become a doer, not just a knower.
That's where the real power lies. And Reklau mentions that the journey might involve tests, right? He said while writing the book, he suddenly encountered more weird or difficult situations with people than ever before.
Yeah, he saw them as opportunities, like the universe was testing him, giving him chances to practice the very skills he was writing about.
So keep a positive mindset. Be prepared to actually use these tools when life throws you a curveball.
Which leads us to a final thought, a question really, for you, the listener. How might consistently applying even one of these principles, maybe active listening, maybe expressing more gratitude, maybe focusing on strengths, how might that begin to reshape not just your relationships, but your entire sense of self and the way you experience the world around you?
It's a powerful question. Because ultimately, this deep dive, it isn't just about learning tricks to influence others or get better at navigating social events. It's much more profound than that. It's about becoming the most authentic, the most effective, the most genuinely fulfilled version of yourself.
And maybe, just maybe, that genuine self, the one that's always striving for excellence and connection, the one that's practicing kindness and empathy and integrity, maybe that is the ultimate people magnet you could ever be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.